Mansplaining is overly criticized.
Oh my God.
I frequently come across videos online where like a man will respond back to a broad generalization about women, and they'll be like, oh, you're just mansplaining it, as if men aren't allowed to have a voice in the conversation. And I think that the term itself, it's just not really defined.
And mansplaining is just not real.
Yeah.
Like it literally is a man explaining something, and these people get angry about it. Like that's the reality of the times in which we live. And it hurts the ability of men to have conversations with women, because you think, oh wow, if I explain this issue to her, then I'm gonna be accused of mansplaining, or I'm gonna be accused of being sexist because I don't think she understands it. That's toxic, and it hurts women, it hurts men, and it's just not a way for us to have a functioning society.
And at its core, it's completely hypocritical, because the feminist plight is that women need to have a voice and they're being told they can't have a voice. And then they turn around and do the exact same thing and say, you're mansplaining me. You shouldn't have a voice about this topic because you're a man.
And we're targeted because of our identity, and no one cares about it because we're supposedly in positions of power, so we don't get to be victims. We don't get to say, oh, you should feel bad for us, because we're men, so we don't get to have the luxury of having the benefit of the doubt of society or the media or any of those things, and it's a shame. It's a shame.
Right. Yeah.
I'm going to speak about mansplaining from a different perspective, because you guys are talking about controversial topics. I'm going to talk about it from just like a day-to-day perspective. In my relationship with my partner, how I try to be really mindful of mansplaining is when she is sharing her struggle. I think a tendency that can be conditioned in me through just how men dominate and want to have to solve problems and all that is I want to jump in and just solve it and try to explain what's happening here and try to question her experience and be like, hey, like, well, did you think about this? Did you think about that? Well, I see this. That inherently in itself comes off as mansplaining, because what is the counter to mansplaining is actually getting consent from the other person. How do you want to be supported? Do you want me to support you and listen to you, or do you want me to help solve problems?
It's also, mansplaining is...
All right, let me pause this right here, and then I'm speaking to my people right now. Bro, this rhetoric that he's spewing is so detrimental, and here's why. When you start to do things like that, you start to get a different sense of who you are. Let me give you an example. If you are a person who problem solves, and every time someone talks to you and you have and in your mind you're a problem solver, right? That's what you immediately go to. You can solve problems better because the more you do things, the better you're at doing them. Now, if you start switching up and saying, oh, are you just venting today? Let me just listen to you vent. And then your mind goes into that. You then start to actually train your mind to just listen to bullshit and not solve the problem. Therefore, you'll get worse at solving that problem. I just don't think this mindset is actually good for men in general. This is why I personally believe girls should have girlfriends to go vent and talk about their problems. If you want your problem solved, that's when you come to me. But let's carry on.
No, and what? I want to just go based off what you said.
Go ahead.
In terms of girls should have girlfriends, but a lot of you guys, when you do get into actual relationships, just generally speaking, y'all don't want your girl to necessarily go to other people for any type of advice or anything, just based off, because if I go to my girl and she's single or in a different situation, she's going to give her advice on more so what she's been through.
Just a second. No, pause. Pause. He is being very specific, and I want to be very specific. You said advice. Advice is problem solving. That's not what I'm talking about. What he's more referring to is sometimes girls go to guys and they don't want advice. They don't want their problem solved. They just want to vent and just tell about their problems, and the man validates their problems. I'm saying from a male perspective, the more you do that, the less you are capable of solving problems. So advice is part of solving problems. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about venting. I'm talking about purely venting.
Okay, so what happens when y'all men have problems with us venting? Because I'm not going to lie, I've been in a relationship where I did seek other women to vent to about my problems, not in terms of just advice, just in terms of being able to speak about it. Yeah. Because men have a different outlook on the way I feel compared to the way they feel. And of course, it's like y'all want to put your feelings before other people, but there was still a problem with venting to other people, because now it becomes a problem when you've been in a relationship for a while. It's like, why are you even going to other people?
Okay.
And that's just I guess you could say in terms of guys I choose, but I've talked to a lot of men just in general, and they agree. Like, they don't want their women going in terms of a traditional relationship. They don't want their women going to other people for any type of clarification, any type of just venting, none of that. Because men, being the superior person, want the women to come to them to vent, to tell them about their problems, to tell them about everything. But kind of how the video was saying, what if we don't feel like y'all really understand us? Then it's like becomes an
But
issue.
I'm gonna be honest. That's why I personally don't think that a man should be just sitting there letting his woman vent all the time. Maybe once in a while, yes, cool. But I'm saying in general, if she's gonna vent to you a lot of different times, in your mind, instead of trying to solve the problem, trying to understand the problem, dissect it, and give her advice and lead her, which you're supposed to do in a relationship, but you just listening, you become more so her friend and less so her lover. And you lose the ability to be effective at problem solving. So I'm speaking from the perspective of men still maintaining that dominant, that respectful, that guidance in the relationship. I just don't want men to be sitting on the phone listening to a woman talk and just hearing, oh, blah blah blah. And no, you got bigger and better things to do.
It's not that. It's really becoming, because you said it's more becoming a friendship than the man in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, my personal opinion is you do have to have a friendship in terms of you have to like the person to honestly love a person. Like, yeah, I can love you just based off you being you. Like, I love Ashley, but that doesn't mean every fucking day I like her ass.
Bitch fights with me all
And
every
that's
day.
what I'm saying. It's like I might love her, but I don't obviously all
Love
the time
everything about me.
every day like her. It's the same thing in terms of a relationship, in terms of any relationship in general. You honestly have to like a person to
be
have
able to
that,
put up with.
to have that love unconditionally for a person. Because if I don't like you and I have love for you, I'm gonna make sure you're straight. I'm gonna make sure you good.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, that doesn't mean I'm going to make sure you're fed. That
No.
doesn't mean I'm going to make sure your mental is straight. That doesn't mean all that. But in terms of a friendship and before a relationship, you know the person a little bit more. You understand them. And in terms of that ranting, spilling the tea, getting shit off your chest, it's going to be easier. And that is what makes, instead of a relationship, a partnership. Because if I can come to you about anything and everything, this happened today, I feel more comfortable in my relationship being able to tell you exactly what's going on than in terms of going to somebody else about what's going on and then coming to you in a relationship aspect. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying, but what I'm ultimately saying, and we got to get back to the video, is
Of course.
I understand that you have to like the person, etc. I'm not arguing that. That's not my argument. My argument is if you do that a lot, you lose a lot of different things that will keep that relationship healthy long term. So maybe when it comes to different arguments of you being too comfortable, we just did a video about this. If a woman is too comfortable in a relationship, that's where the disrespect starts to come in. And I'm just saying, from a male perspective, you want to always keep the upper hand when it comes to respect level, when it comes to you solving her problems, versus you just listening to just listen. I'm just saying it from that perspective. All right. Other than that, and then you said something else that I have to touch on. A woman's love is not unconditional. It's always based on how you make her feel at that point in time. So I want that to be said.
Well,
as well.
I wasn't saying that in a way. In terms of looking for unconditional love, just based on my past, that's what I normally look for. I'm not saying everybody I choose, which is majority of the people I choose are not unconditional loving people. But in terms of just me, I'm an unconditional loving person. If I show any interest in you, I from get have unconditional love for you. You could probably do me the dirtiest friends relationship any type of way, but I have in terms of personality and soul, I have a loving personality and soul, and I want everybody that comes into my life to be an unconditional love based off just me. You can do the worst things to me and I'm gonna still love you for who you are. I might not like you, but unconditional love is a different type of thing. Just like I was saying before, in terms of men, it's like a man could be having love, like, damn, I don't want you to get hurt. I don't want this to happen to you. But I'm still, doing my thing. I'm still, you fuck up. I'm not going to really fuck with you like that. Yeah. That's unconditional love. It's kind of like from a mom. You could fuck up. You could do some stupid ass shit and your mom's still going to love you. Yeah. And you want to get deep? I didn't have that growing up. I didn't have that unconditional love. I could fuck up and my mom hates me. I can do something where my dad is disappointed. It's never unconditional with me in my life of where I've met people that are more unconditional love. So growing up, it's always been I give out the unconditional love.
Gotcha, because you never had that when you
But people that I meet is the conditional. I've been in a relationship where it's like, if you don't do this, you don't do this, you don't do this, I really don't love you. Okay. And that, to me, is unconditional love.
Okay. And then I want to hear from you. You didn't say nothing in the past 20 minutes. Hello?
But
I said you haven't said nothing in the past 20 minutes. You got anything to say?
I did say some stuff.
What do you have to add on to this topic?
Yeah.
Anything? If not, we can move on.
Let's move on.
It's also not just a man having an opinion. Right. That's not the situation. The idea is when a man interjects an opinion that he either is not fully educated on or does not have the appropriate empathy to be able to talk about.
See, how is that different than a woman doing that?
Yeah, exactly.
That's my issue.
Then feel free when a woman does that to say you're womansplaining. I don't think that they'll
get very...
There's a reason that term doesn't exist, because you're not allowed to do that towards women in society.
I promise you, if you did that, it would be just fine.
You just invented
it. It would be just fine.
I think the difference is, though, when if that were to happen to men, it wouldn't quiet our voices to being completely unheard. My wife is a physics and math teacher. If she has the answer to a question in a staff meeting, she's going to have to be louder than the men in the room, because that is the way society has conditioned people to operate, especially in male-dominated spaces. Yeah. That's what mansplaining is. I have one more question. Is it about the word?
Yeah, that's what I feel. Is it about the getting hung up on like words like mansplaining?
Y'all have a lot of problems with a lot of these languages.
When you say mansplaining, you have to understand that subconsciously we're already creating a divide when really a woman can mansplain by definition the way you guys are explaining it, and that's just as wrong as if a man does it. So why is it called mansplaining? Why isn't it just disrespectful?
So when your life is not at stake, when you're not being attacked, I think you can focus on language. When you're not at risk of being...
You live in U.S., dude.
Men are attacked every single day.
Women are attacked more.
But I think from a societal standpoint, you guys talk a lot about social conditioning and how women feel uncomfortable. But don't you think this narrative that you're saying right now is contributing to that? Telling women that they should be scared when they're in an environment full of men. Telling women that, they are oppressed, they are this, they're that. By telling women they're less than men.
Let me respond to that. They're not telling them that. They're validating the fact that that's the reality.
Right.
Women should be encouraged to be financially independent of men.